All right, we are live.
Bound and a bound to town, being a bound, bound, chicken
Demonetized.
da da. Sell the kids for food. Ba 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 ba. Weather changes mood.
See,
That's right.
Who needs Saint Laurent when you've got Christian,
We got
the
it,
pacemaker?
guys, girls, they, thems, and everything else.
And
Welcome to the Bias Cut.
Welcome.
This is a podcast hosted by one sweaty guy, one not so sweaty guy, and we talk about fashion, or we kind of yell and complain and scream and everything else. My name's Christian.
My name's Killian, and as we set up there, a little bit later, we will be talking about the vintage, curated Saint Laurent t-shirts that are costing thousands of dollars, and why maybe that's actually a good thing. We're going to tell you why.
Controversial. Yeah, we got hot takes, and we think things like $5,000, $4,000 for a rock and roll t-shirt, good.
Good.
Yes.
Good.
I'm like, yes, that's perfect.
Right.
Finally.
Listen, I'm just glad to see you cool, calm, collected, dry, smelling great.
I mean, I smell good because...
I don't know. I came by and hid in your closet and sniffed you earlier, and that's not... It's just a lie.
You know what I'm actually... I just realized that it's something I should actually be concerned about is... so a little behind the scenes, guys. My apartment is inhumanely hot. And I put my hand on my computer, and it's cooking. And I'm kind of worried that it might just turn itself off. Like, it might kind of say, I'm crashing. So,
I think
guys,
that was
if that happens...
Episode before last, that's what happened to me. I had to call in from a potato. So it's definitely within the realm of possibility.
Yeah. You know what else? And I just want to say this for everybody, for all of our viewers, for all of our losers. I read somewhere that, like, in podcasting, I didn't read this. I almost certainly heard it on a podcast. You're not even in the game until you're like 50 episodes, 100 episodes in.
Oh, right. Yeah. I mean, go back and listen to Marin episode 31. Does anybody even talk about Marin episode 31? No, because it was nothing at that point. Okay.
He was nothing.
He was nothing. He was doing Air America with Sam Cedar. Okay. The guy was a nobody. He was a doorman at the Comedy Store in L.A. during the days of Sam Kinison. All right, a nobody. I listened to Marin for a while.
Something comedy seller.
And now he's got a huge podcast where he has famous people on, and then he goes, so what'd your pop do? What'd your dad do? And that's the formula.
He had Obama on.
True. That was the real turning point. The apex. You want to talk about fashion?
Oh, yeah. What?
What are clothes? Explain it, please. Can you bring up ChatGPT and find out what clothes are? I've got to know.
Yeah. So if anybody's new to the show, we try to explore really, like, definitionally what is clothing. And every episode we get closer and closer to figuring out what are clothes.
Really, our core audience is like the people of North Sentinel Island. Like, they don't know anything about anything in society, and they just get over here and are like, oh, I need to learn what to put on my ding dong so that people aren't staring.
Yeah.
So speaking of covering up your ding dong, jeans are good at doing that. And you know who makes great jeans? Our friends at Levi's.
Levi Strauss. So I want to bring this one up. We got this Levi's times Studio Ghibli's Princess Mononoke. And, Princess Mononoke is a fan favorite in my household.
Mind you,
And
I will say, I'm gonna be real for a second here, okay?
okay.
My grandfather, like Alzheimer's now, like barely there. I have incredibly fond memories. He was like a film buff. And
Oh
when
yeah.
Princess Mononoke came out, I remember watching it with him on VHS because he was like, "Yo, this is that good shit."
Yo,
You know what I mean?
yo. He was like,
Yo, we got that
yo.
fire over here. So it's got a fond place in my heart. You know what I mean?
It's Caroline's like favorite movie. She's watched it a billion times. We
Hmm.
end up watching it once a year. It seems like,
Hmm.
even though the movie ripped off Zelda, it's like, oh, so many. The movie was just taken Zelda, Breath of the Wild. They were just taken from that.
Oh, so
Um,
what? It just has like a really thin story and bad writing, but just really good gameplay. That's what the deal is.
so you mean every Nintendo game ever?
Yeah, yeah.
Honestly. And then like when like reviewers are like, the story's kind of good. It's like, no, it's not.
No,
Are
no,
you
you liar.
brain dead? Anyway, let's talk about the collab.
Tell
I
me.
kind of like it. I think it's
Okay.
so the big things that I'm seeing in this one are the like the t-shirts. Who cares? Like
Right.
like honestly, I Levi's. I don't care. But like that kimono is kind of cool. But I really like the pants.
Yeah.
And
Let me
like
get.
those overalls, you got like the spirit of the forest, and you've got the uh, Kuroko guys.
Yeah. The main centerpiece though is this stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah, the printed denim. I genuinely, I think that's pretty cool. Like, I would love to have those pieces. Just because I'm a fan. Um,
Yeah.
I think I would go for like the denim jacket. That would be like one of the first things I would
That's
want.
the move, and I think they have bottoms for it, right? They showed it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
The
like
top
match it.
photo here. It's a full two piece. That's got to be the centerpiece. Yeah, there you go, and it goes down the leg as well. And I think there there are ways to do collabs tastefully and not tastefully. And Ghibli is a brand that I think they license quite freely, right? They've had their fair share of collabs with clothing companies. And I always think,
I
I don't
assume
know.
Uniqlo's got a billion,
Oh God, yeah,
right?
Uniqlo, you and all that, yeah. So I don't know. Do you pay any attention to like skateboarding? Were you ever a skater?
My brother was. So,
Okay, so there's this brand Primitive.
yeah.
And when I think of bad licensed collabs, I think of Primitive. Like
Okay.
anytime I see a collab, I'm like, okay, is this what Primitive would do, or is it better than that? Because that's rock bottom. So this is like the opposite end of that spectrum, where you're actually looking to the source material and you're saying, how can I actually incorporate this with the I don't know, the codes of my clothing brand and make the two work together, you know?
Do you feel like Levi's is doing that? The codes, the code of conduct.
Oh yeah, they've got a strict code of conduct that they're following here. I mean, listen, if I feel like Levi's, they've kind of got it easy because there's almost like too much heritage. Like you can't really mess it up unless you really start going off script. You know what I mean?
Well, these prints they make me think of. Remember when Raph was still at Calvin Klein, and
Yeah.
there was like, I think it was like a white, like kind of like blue sky prints on denim.
Yes.
Are you thinking about pulling that up, or are you just?
I absolutely am.
All right, I'll keep you busy. But yeah, yeah, yeah. We're seeing it. We're seeing this is like the gears are turning, and he's
I can't believe I remembered that 205 West 39 NYC.
like I've been to that location. I don't. I would never remember that.
Are you thinking of this?
Yes, yes.
So
That's
this is
fun.
a denim jacket from Raph's time at Calvin Klein. It is like a kind of American rural, like church looking like VFW hall type of building with an American flag. Big blue sky covers the chest and most of the sleeves. Then you get like a landscape down by the cuffs. It's actually super sick.
Yeah, I think those are pretty cool. I think the pants is the one that I would go for.
Okay. Okay. Right there.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's kind of weird. Kind of even weirder, even.
I'm with you. And coming back to the Levi's, I didn't even notice these when we were kind of scouting topics. I think the short shorts are the best of the bunch.
Why?
I would devour these short shorts. Like living in the Northeast, in the muggy 95-degree Northeast, I would live in these short shorts from right this second onwards,
Oh
you
my
know?
god, it's so odd. Why did you remind me?
Okay, here's a question though. We're looking at a picture where I see a multi-button fly closure.
Yeah,
Are you a button fly boy or a zip fly boy?
I think Levi had to tell me that like it was the 505s that had the first zipper closure.
Mhm.
But like the 501s that classically have the buttons.
Mhm.
Um, I think it really depends,
So
right?
you go with the hair. You're like if it's meant to have buttons, I go with buttons and vice versa.
Yeah, yeah, I think so.
Correct.
I think that it probably like what is the flaw of a zipper? That it will fail ultimately.
I
Probably
think
there'll be
so.
like a failure point. So
Yeah.
if you go for buttons, if they're like your like rawest denims.
Mhm. I'll say though, I know it happens. I've never broken a zipper. Like
I
I prefer a zip closure. Like when I'm wearing button closure pants, I literally think it takes me like 3 times longer to just take a piss, and that's
oh
kind of
no,
frustrating.
oh
Um,
no.
so we had this same conversation about mules, okay? I was talking about how mules are annoying because you have to, like, flip up your toes to actually keep them on your feet, and you're like, "Well, that's the price we pay to be into fashion." And it's like, "No, function is important, Christian."
Boo, boo!
Boo.
I say, I boo onto you. Yeah, Killian's always complaining. He's like, if I have to piss, I have to take my mules off so I can walk barefoot in the
Right.
bathroom.
I just hate having to toss my mules off just to dance around in the puddles of piss,
Yeah,
okay?
like you can hear your bare feet slapping on the ground at the restroom at the like your local sports arena where they have.
So I got a
Oh,
question for you.
I'm listening. I'm listening.
You're a fan of spending money, right?
If I had any, yes.
Yeah, yeah. You love spending money, and that is why you are a loyal Ralph Lauren customer.
Hell yeah, dude. So what's the news on this one? Tell me the
So
scoop.
I found this very interesting, and I'm curious what you think about it. So obviously, like every single brand, not just fashion brand, but every single company that exists in a capitalist system right now is raising their prices. It's just a fact. Inflation's been wild. Companies are some literally have to raise their prices because their costs have gone up. Others just see an opportunity to finally grab some margin back, but usually they don't brag about it. They kind of
Yeah.
meekly do it like, oh, we had to raise our prices just a little bit. Please don't be mad at us. But Ralph Lauren, they're like, oh, hey guys, hey, we just want to make sure that all of you know that we have raised our prices 80% since 2018, and we have no plans to stop. We're going to just keep raising prices on Ralph Lauren.
Uh,
Why did they do that?
uh, duh. I would say this. So the story is that Ralph Lauren is kind of being very overt about increasing the price of their stuff. And like we probably talked about this a billion times, talking about like luxury brands and the dance of where how they position themselves in order to be covetable and limited, yada yada yada. Now,
Mhm.
Ralph Lauren is kind of unique in that in the 80s and 90s, it was one of the biggest labels in the world, period. And they like dramatically expanded like their footprint with like, I think they still have something like 1,000 like retail stores.
Yeah.
So like in the 80s, 90s, they were everywhere and they really were pushing mass market. And I think it was probably around the recession, the Great Recession, where Ralph Lauren was kind of in a boo-boo position where they had to retract because they had so many retail locations. They were so overextended that they were losing money. Now, what kind of separates Ralph Lauren, and typically we're thinking about like Polo Ralph Lauren, which is like they're more or less the main line.
Yeah.
It is it's not as expensive typically as say, I don't know, Givenchy,
Sure.
or Prada or whatever, but it is an expensive brand. It's not cheap. But based on like me reading this, it seems like this is my guess. This is what I think is happening.
Hit me.
I think Ralph Lauren is recognizing that it can't grow further as a mass market brand. There's nowhere else to grow lest they basically eat up any of their kind of cachet of being like coveted in luxury. So instead, they're retracting and going further into luxury. Like,
I think they risk
further into that.
They risk losing everything. You've seen it before, look at the Michael Korses of the world, the Tommy Hilfigers, right? This is just what kind of has historically happened, especially to American brands seemingly. But the saturation is at its peak point. I think for me, I understand the value of the Ralph Lauren brand, but in practice, I usually think of especially Polo and their licensed stuff is like a Marshalls type of brand, a thrift store type of brand, where it's just everywhere. And that's not where they want to be, nor is it where they should be,
Yeah, I have a lot of like respect for Ralph Lauren, for all of our audience.
Can I throw one thing out there, which is that have you ever seen or felt or put on a Ralph Lauren purple label piece of clothing?
Yeah, I've done all of that. Yes. Go
Some
on.
of the nicest clothing that has ever been made in maybe the history of clothing. I was at some store when I was in Montreal, and they had like a goat hair cashmere purple label made in Italy blazer, and I just tossed that thing on, and like it was beyond Loro Piana levels. Nutty. So, and people, there's still like cachet to that. Those pieces resell when I found them at thrift stores and whatever, and resold them. Like people are looking for that. So there's something there. There's something there that has a spark that I think could be turned to a little bit of a fire here. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And to give people some context, Purple Label,
please,
came out, I don't know, maybe a decade or 2 decades ago. I'm not even sure. But that is meant to be like their highest tier of kind of like a consumer product. And think of it in the same vein as Hermes or like Thoreau.
Yeah.
And as you're describing, it is of like the highest caliber. But I think there's a lot of things like Ralph Lauren right now, I think needs to clean up. They've had to cut off some younger and sometimes more kind of exciting brands. Like I used to love Rugby by Ralph Lauren.
Mm-hmm.
That was truly the prep school fantasy.
Right.
There was just something about that. Yes. It's gone. Denim and Supply by Ralph Lauren.
Oh God, yeah.
Truly the boho New York fantasy.
Right.
It's like the Denim and Supply was like costuming for the play Rent. And
that's so specific, but really good.
Specific but true.
Yeah.
So they had a lot of brands that they've had to like truncate in the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. As absurd as this seems, like somebody going out of their way to say, guys, we're making our clothes more expensive.
Yeah.
Get pumped. I think that it's the only thing they can do. And I think that Ralph Lauren is one of the true blue American brands, and I think that they can get away with it.
Yeah.
That they're a brand that deserves to stay.
Deserve it. And making moves. I think Ralph Lauren is back on the New York Fashion Week schedule. One of the Fashion Week schedules for the first time in a bit. So every step that they're taking, I think, is a smart one and the right one if you're trying to get your fashion cachet back. So I think good move. Weirdly, bragging about raising your prices 80%, good move in this case.
Yeah.
Who would have thunk it?
Yeah, I don't want to I really do not want to jinx this, but Ralph Lauren is gonna die soon. So.
Oh God. Oh no.
It's just
you better finish a video about him so you got it ready for when that happens.
I'm not going to.
No.
Guys, I spent hours on a Ralph Lauren video that I just stopped. I just doing it.
Not even a real. I was waiting for they're like, I just couldn't find my way in. Like the subject matter, like how do you approach such like an important figure in fashion? So it's like, and I stopped.
I just stopped. You know what it was? I was like working on it. I'm like, damn, it's gonna take a lot more time to make this. And I'm like,
I mean, listen, honesty is important. Okay, I respect you not fabricating a reason.
The Helmut Lang video, I spent even more time on.
Oh no!
Stopped. I just stopped. It's like I think I have made and edited like 10 minutes of a video for the Helmut Lang one. I'm just like,
10 minutes is a video, my friend.
It is.
You're saying you have a video.
I can't release it as it is. Like, people will be like, "What the hell?"
I got a question for you.
Go ahead.
Who do you think? And this may be too easy, but I'm curious. Who do you think is the best, like pop, rap, whatever artist turned designer / fashion collaborator? Who's the best?
Oh, it's gotta be my number one guy, Travis Scott.
No!
Straight up!
You ruined it. Because here's the thing, okay? Here's the thing. I think Travis Scott is maybe the worst of the big musician collaborators, okay? And I'm going to make you defend your choice here, even though I know it was a facetious choice, okay? So here, I'm not giving you the floor. You're letting me keep this floor while I make my case. Then I will let you rebut, my friend. You will have your rebut fuck time, okay? Okay, so Travis Scott makes some really boring Nikes. I know that Nike locks down their collaborations and they won't let you do anything interesting. They're just like, here's a Jordan or here's a Dunk. But even within that realm, I think the Travis Scott, the Cactus Jack ones are dumb and bad. Okay. Mainline Cactus Jack is just lame. The aesthetic's bad. And I think I bought one or two pieces. I bought the Fragment collaboration. There maybe one of the McDonald's ones that I resold. The quality is some of the worst quality I've ever felt in my entire life. He did a collaboration with Dior, with Kim Jones, and that was very masturbatory, I would say, and self-indulgent and uninteresting. And finally, right here, let me zoom in. We have a brand new Givenchy collaboration, which is just yet another extension of his boring design aesthetic and lack of creativity. And I don't think in his any mainline or collaborative thing he's done anything interesting or original. And I think all of his peers have done at least something original. The floor is yours.
I disagree. And
no.
As much as I don't necessarily want to be having to be the person who defends Travis Scott.
Mm-hmm. I will say, okay, I'll help you out, okay? One thing I'll give him, he did kill all those people.
He did, and that's success.
That's worth something.
It's worth something, and apparently that by something we mean not jail time.
Right.
Other than killing those people, which he is responsible for, and the blood is on his hands, it's like what I used to say about Virgil before people were like, actually, he was great. You have to admit that he is successful because he's doing something that other people cannot do. I think that Travis Scott fundamentally is best at being kind of a conduit or collaborator. And I say his ad-libs all the time because it's funny to say it, that there must be something catchy. It must be in my brain for some reason.
Right.
I think that the criticism could better be that it is superficial, but I disagree that
Mhm.
it is bad. Like if we talk about like at least aesthetically, the aesthetics of like say rodeo, I think
Mhm.
that was very much the zeitgeist of the time,
Yeah.
aesthetically and sonically. I think that like I have a distinct memory, and this is for all my New York heads out there. There is this bar called Mood Ring that was like the queer bar slash bar to go to. I went there a couple of months ago, and somebody recognized me. They were from Florida, and they said, "You're Mr. Brave New Wear." But that's besides the point.
Ooh.
I remember going to that bar, the bar that everybody was talking about, that like the New Yorker wrote a thing about, and I thought this is just like what Travis Scott is doing for his aesthetic. So my point being, I think that you can complain that he is codifying or kind of just cashing in on things, but I think
Mhm.
his skill or credit to him is either surrounding himself with people who know what's cool or at least
Mhm.
co-opting whatever is cool. Can I
Right.
argue for Cactus Jack? I don't think so. But
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I thought, Astro World, the album cover was an interesting art cover.
Yeah.
I'm really defending Travis Scott right
I
now.
think okay, I will give you superficial. I think that's a much more reasonable take than straight up bad. But I think that superficial leads to potentially bad. You know what I mean? I think it's
It
your
always
entry
does.
point into it.
It
Uh,
always does.
I also I think I need to apologize to you and make an admission to the viewers, which is that in our pre-show, you kind of made that he killed people joke first, and I just totally stole it, and I want to make sure that the people know that.
That's okay because honestly, I think it's not tasteful, and I think that you
Oh, you're glad they came from me. Yeah, and you just
yeah,
had that.
yeah,
Okay,
because
good,
I think
good, good.
you should be ashamed of yourself.
Right,
It's horrifying
right.
that those people
Wow, I
have.
screwed up. I really screwed up here.
It is. You
Dang it.
know what? Real no jokes, guys. It is horrifying, and
Yes.
there should be like repercussions to that.
Yeah, that was all wild, and he came off really badly. I wonder, like and here's the thing, there's definitely everyone has biases, right? And I think the way that he handled that entire situation and some of, like, the videos he released explaining it or defending himself or whatever, left a real bad taste in my mouth, and I cannot completely dispute that that could be coloring my preferences on
Let me do my impression of Travis Scott apologizing. It's a
please.
black and white video. Oh man. Oh shoot. I'm I'm bummed. He was just like, oh man, guys. It's like, could you not act high for like 5 minutes and maybe like not do a video of you walking through like a parking lot saying like, oh dang, all those people were crushed to death.
Listen,
It's like,
he covered his face a lot, so
yeah,
he
he
must
did. He
feel
was like,
really bad and really embarrassed, okay? Oh, geez. So,
I don't know. Okay.
we've got a chat message. Go what does it say,
Listen,
Christian?
first off, V, I did not see your DM. Maybe I was looking for it. I don't know. But also, I'm notoriously a flaky person. There are people who have been friends with me for years, and I ignore their phone calls today. So
Mhm.
please don't take any offense to it. I am a bad person. Secondly,
Listen.
when will I be able to afford a camera? Hopefully soon.
It's coming. The day's
Hopefully
coming, baby.
soon.
We're on the come up.
I mean,
Okay.
my camera is my phone right now,
I will
and I'm on the
I'll
come
back
up.
up the
Hopefully,
fact. I'll back up the fact that Christian's flaky, okay? We may not even have a show next week because this guy is trying to cousin Greg himself into a real positive situation, okay?
they might be watching, so don't say anything. No, I
Your
just
mouth
want
is
to.
shut.
I want to. I'm trying to court a couple friendship, so that takes priority potentially.
Of course. That's
And
how
that's all I'll say.
we afford the cameras, okay?
Yeah, exactly. Um, where am I going with this? In conclusion,
Please.
you know what I'll say about the Travis Scott collab that
Sure.
isn't just meandering and bizarre is
Mhm.
that Matthew Williams has a long history of working he was a stylist for musicians.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure you can Google this and figure it out. He dated Lady Gaga.
This is true.
And he was her stylist, and he's connected to musicians. He's talked about Playboy Cardi, who iconically said Gavinci, and how they're friends. I assume he considers Travis Scott our friend. So
For sure.
I think that is the nature of this collaboration. Matthew Williams is the creative director of Givenchy.
Hmm.
Travis Scott is a very popular wanted for manslaughter person.
Right.
It's a match made in heaven, you know?
Yeah. He's just in his pyramid phase, his dirty beige pyramid phase.
Dirty beige pyramid is a good way to describe a lot of Travis Scott.
It's a good way to describe a lot of Yeezy seasons.
Are you going somewhere with that?
Maybe. I don't know. I wasn't even planning on it, but we could. Do you want to?
Yeah, let's talk about the Yeezy season thing real quick.
All right, please. Yeah, let me bring this up. So.
Well, I mean, you were the one you were adamant. You were like, we need to talk about this, Christian. I need the people to know.
So, you're talking about the Adidas stuff, right?
Yes, Adidas.
All right, perfect. So, I find this interesting. Adidas, they went crawling on back to our anti-Semitic friend, Ye. Friend is the type of term I use for anybody. Okay, really just acquaintance or person that I know very casually, not a real friend.
My casual Nazi acquaintance.
Right. And they were like, listen, Ye, we got all these shoes. You really screwed us over, but we'll let you get back in and give you your cut if you let us sell these. And they made over $500 million, a cool $500 million. And I find that interesting. I think that they had to take a real ethical leap there, especially after all of the things that they said and how adamant they were about how much they disagreed with everything Ye stood for. But money talks, I guess. And I don't know. Is it just as simple as they wanted money? Is this defensible, yes. Christian? What do you think?
As indefensible as every other corporation that pretends to have any form of ethics or scruples.
Right.
All of them are just driven by money. They will lie and say whatever nonsense will get them closer to money. And that's it. And if you for 1 second believe, and I'm not trying to be cynical, and I honestly don't even think I'm like making anything up. Corporations will say the thing that is the vector closest to money. So if they're saying anything that you agree with or you think is ethical or unethical, that decision was solely made on basically a market research that determined that should be their stance. So the fact that Adidas decided to sell $500 million worth of Nazi shoes, well, I'm pretty sure they've done it in the past.
But I will say, I do
sure
think
that adds up.
That's fair. I do think you need to follow the money, though, to know that I think this was their last resort. I think this was the last thing they wanted to do in order to still come out somewhat in the black on their investment here, because I think their first choice, if I remember correctly, was to debrand the shoes and take the Yeezy off of them and just say, hey, yes, we know these are Yeezy silhouettes, but they're just Adidas. Right?
Adidas, they say.
That was their top option. And I believe I remember one, like their CEO or whatever, saying that they even considered burning them and taking like a write-off on them, which I guess would have gotten them back some sort of, recoupment for their losses. I think this was the last in the chain. They walked through all the available options, and this was the only one left for them for whatever.
You know what? I will say this. And maybe you guys, for all of my neoliberals, for all my capitalists out there that are like, Christian, you're fundamentally flawed because this podcast is about fashion, which is consumerism. What is your problem? But beyond that, I want to throw you guys a bone. I think that it is certainly better to sell those shoes than to burn them to the ground. I think that would have been such an empty gesture. That would have been such a middle finger to like society writ large.
Right.
To just burn $500 million worth of shoes, just to be like, see, we've always been the good guys.
We're the good guys, yeah. Isn't it obvious?
Isn't it obvious? We just burned a mountain of shoes. You know. Meanwhile, the water in Key, what do you call it? The Florida Keys is 100 degrees Fahrenheit.
True.
Isn't that terrifying? The ocean water. And I don't want to say it because it is really sad. The coral reef, the coral there is bleaching very rapidly. It is almost certainly going to die off, and it's kind of tragic. That's an aside. My point is, don't burn shoes.
Blanks makes the point about donation, and I do think probably the most ethically sound option, if money were no object, would straight up be to just give them away to like people that need shoes, low income people, whatever. But obviously they're not going to do that because that would be a complete loss. Wouldn't even be able to write it off or whatever.
Think about it.
But maybe I'm just a complete nihilist, but I don't even know if they would have gotten the credit that they would maybe deserve for doing that. Because I think there's some contingent of people that would be like, oh, so you're just happy giving the entire world sneakers that have a Nazi's name on it? Huh? You're happy doing that?
They could have also said something like, listen, we're going to sell the rest of these Yeezys and we're getting it to like the Israeli government.
Right.
I don't know. Some like anti-defamation
people, you give all your money to the Israeli government. We know this.
They know what to do.
Yeah.
They're going to do something good with it.
Right.
No, I don't know. I think they could have sold $500 million worth of shoes and given it to a non-for-profit organization, somebody who is actually ethical, who is in favor or is in some way stopping Nazis.
Right.
I don't know. Give it to...
Listen, I've definitely seen there are at least a handful of people, I've seen them on the History Channel, who are Nazi hunters. They go to Argentina, they find these guys, and they need support for their History Channel shows where they hunt Nazis. Gosh,
is that really a show?
I think, if I remember correctly, from when I was like 14, yes.
That show would have been a lot cooler if they tried doing it maybe like in the 80s when, like, if you're going to hunt a Nazi, like if you go to Argentina now and you find a Nazi, that Nazi's like 100 years old. It's not going to
be in a wheelchair and he's just drooling. And it's like, you did bad things. And he's like
it's not good anymore. It's not cool anymore. You got to beat up that Nazi when they can at least run.
Right.
So yeah, this is a podcast about clothes.
I completely support that tangent. I love the mental image that we just conjured there. I'm going to cherish it forever.
This is a dark episode. This is our dark timeline.
We should probably talk about the main story of the week, shouldn't we? All right. What's going on? Why don't you tell us about this one?
Okay, let's talk about it.
Hit me.
So, around the 1970s, there was this young fashion designer named Yves Saint Laurent.
Right.
He started a brand that was primarily targeted towards the young, hip, well-to-do.
I think maybe we should go forward a little bit. It is 8:41.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, recently, the brand known as Saint Laurent Paris, or I guess they go as YSL again, started selling these authentic vintage Nirvana t-shirts. Mm-hmm. So these are indeed t-shirts that were either directly sold by Nirvana, like a part of their tour, or these are t-shirts. It looks like these are t-shirts that are from the 90s, connected to the scene, that have some degree of authenticity.
Yeah.
Because it seems like there's one that's like a rest in peace Kurt Cobain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right there. So these are true blue, vintage rock and roll T-shirts from one of the most rocking bands out there. So it's a collect. These are collector's items. Saint Laurent is a luxury brand, and they're selling them for around $5,000. And we're here to tell you why that's good.
Yeah, listen,
That's
you're
good.
gonna find
So disregard everything I said earlier. Disregard that. That is not my actual stance.
Right.
I am a big proponent of like companies and money and like
we love money. So let's just set the stage, okay? Here's the popular sentiment. Kurt rolling in his grave over this nonsense. Kurt would have definitely hated $4,000 shirts. Exactly what Kurt would have despised. Rolling in his grave, would despise this concept, could not be more distant. Okay, so
I agree. I can agree with that. But also Kurt Cobain was kind of like, I think he would be kind of cringe today. Like he was like so anti, like even like musicians like Axl Rose apparently wanted to be like, oh, I love your music, I like you, we're both musicians. Like he was so like he was really kind of too cringe a little bit, but
a little bit. You know, if I can, I remember my parents. They liked Nirvana. They were like around at that time in like the punk music scene, but they thought that he was like a poser. Like they thought he was just this kind of like emo loser who was like putting on airs of being depressed and like, sad boy. So they were like, I remember them telling me we were very surprised when he killed himself because we thought it was all just an act and we thought it was cringe,
And guys, I am kind of being a little extra. I think that Nirvana and Kurt Cobain were pretty cool, but let's get into this. We're here because we realize that we need to be more controversial. So we're here to argue why this is a good thing.
I think there are legitimate arguments. We're not just putting these on. These are arguments that we can stand by. We understand the arguments against, but there are legitimate arguments for that I want to go through. So should I throw one out? You want to go back and forth?
Throw.
Okay. So here's the first thing. These are being sold at fair market prices. Fair, obviously, being up for interpretation, but YSL are not marking these up. Okay.
Yeah.
Like Nirvana Incesticide shirt, right? If we go look at on Grailed, $10,000,
Mamma mia,
for $2,800. The prices aren't completely out of whack. If these weren't being sold by Saint Laurent, some vintage store guy would be finding these at the thrift store and selling them at their vintage shop for pretty much the same prices.
Silver League, yeah.
Silver League and Justin Reed. Yeah.
That's one point. Here's another point for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, luxury brands, you are buying into a vibe fundamentally, and you're not the shirt itself. These shirts, these pants, they don't cost thousands of dollars. You're spending thousands of dollars for a vibe. There is something completely rational. Cold one. There's something completely rational and I think great about a luxury brand deciding to expand outward and include pieces that are both authentic from the time and, in a sense, kind of a collaging of the things that inspire them and the things that kind of they want to distinguish or identify with.
Yeah.
These T-shirts already existed. They're not producing more things to make Florida's water hotter. They are taking something that existed and they arbitrage. They're saying, hey, would you like to buy this because we have curated it?
So let me piggyback on that because I think another point in this idea's favor is the fact, think about some other luxury brands like Gucci, even Givenchy, who we've talked about a couple times in this episode. both of those brands have done Disney collaborations in recent years,
Yeah.
and they also charge thousands of dollars for these Disney pieces, and it is new product churn to go out to the masses, brand new, killing the earth pieces that are being made for they're disposable for all intents and purposes. Uh, for this drop, Saint Laurent has not created a single new thing into being, and yet they're evoking the same vibes that they're looking to, that these brands were looking to do with Disney, but they're doing it in a sustainable way, even if it's one that people don't like because of the price point or how they think it's at odds with the Nirvana legacy or whatever.
Guys, Saint Laurent is green. They're eco-friendly.
They're going to be able to put this on their social responsibility page.
Their social justice warrior page.
Right.
Here's another point in favor.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you spend $1,000 on a T-shirt or whatever.
Okay.
One of them is from Gucci and it is utterly meaningless. Mm-hmm. Another one you spent that money at Saint Laurent and you very truly have a authentic Nirvana T-shirt from the 90s. I would rather own that. I would rather
straight up. It's kind of as simple as that, right?
Yeah, right. I mean, come on. At least you would say, "Oh yeah, this is like a real Nirvana T-shirt." It was expensive, but ever since I started that tech startup and I loved the band in the 90s, and now I can have a piece of it. Would Kurt Cobain be pissed off about this? Yes, but he was so pissed off that he killed himself. So, you can only be so like grunge for so long. It's like he still sold tickets.
Anybody making that argument, I understand it, but you are a fucking hypocrite, okay? I'm just going to put that out there. Think how hyped were people on them using that Nirvana song in the Batman, the Robert Pattinson big studio Warner Brothers movie. It made the movie it went viral as a sound on TikTok. It's like, this is perfect. It's the perfect mood, the perfect vibe.
How does that song go again? Yeah.
Something in the way.
That movie was vibes, though.
And that's what we're getting at. Kurt would have hated both of these things, but both that movie and Saint Laurent are just trying to bring vibes to what they're putting out into the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I want to do drips like in that movie. I think that I mean, honestly, I think that the worst part about this is that the people who are buying these shirts are likely not punk rockers. They're not Tina is a punk rocker. They're not. They are probably people who are wealthy. I would like to imagine that it's somebody who grew up with this music and has become affluent. But
can I just say though, and this is like where you get into this weird situation, because you can follow this rabbit hole down anywhere. It's kind of like how you can't buy anything these days completely ethically. But where were these people getting all up in arms when people are spending like $3,000 for an archival Joy Division Raph Simmons piece? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and then what's his face killed himself because of
straight fuck up.
Yeah,
right? At least buy a vintage Smith shirt, because Morrissey is still around and kicking, and he's hanging out with British nationalists. Okay, like a real man.
Meat is murder.
Right. He's a vegetarian fascist, as it should be.
What got in his brain? He wants to get hit by a double-decker bus, or maybe I want him to.
So I kind of want to close with one criticism of this. I will give credence here, and I think this is a criticism that you're not going to hear from other people. The wrong Saint Laurent designer put these out.
Yeah. Yes.
What do you think about that? What can you?
That was my idea. That was my idea.
Translate this for me.
All right, I'll translate. I think Eddie Salmon. This is like so his vibe. this would be something he would do, to be like arrogant, to really stick it to people, to sell things for way more money than they're worth.
Yes.
Those are things that he loves to do. And then if somebody came up and was like, "This is inauthentic. You don't know about rock and roll," and he somehow would be, "Actually, I am." He'd say, "I am a respected photographer. I am totally in the indie rock scene. I do all this photography. I am friends with all these rock and roll artists. How dare you say that I am not rock and roll? I am rock and roll luxury."
He's like, listen, I helped revive rock and roll with the rock and roll revival with the skinny black tie, Dior Homme looks, okay?
Yeah. He's like, I made what's his face lose 50 pounds. Karl Lagerfeld.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's like a fashion lore, is that
I like it.
When Eddie took over Dior Homme and he started selling skinny suits, Karl Lagerfeld lost a bunch of weight, and he said that he did it to fit in the Dior suits. So,
I like it. Listen,
yeah.
It feels like a very Eddie thing to do, to make somebody be like, you know what would be good for you? Being skinnier, because skinny is just better. That's the Eddie way.
It's fun. Skinny is fundamentally better,
right,
than anything else.
Right.
So I mean, in conclusion, guys, anybody who thinks that these Saint Laurent shirts are bad are wrong, because
straight up wrong.
There's nothing bad about this. There's nothing bad about selling an old T-shirt for $5,000.
Damn right. It's the American dream, you guys.
You know what? Let's call up Dave. Let's get Dave Grohl on the horn and ask him what he thinks. You know, right?
Hit me.
We can ask him.
Please.
What would you guys do?
I've been looking for something that changed for nothing. I'm been in a vibe, damn another time when I think I can.
Here's one. Levis, you. You know that one song?
Yeah, that one. I know that one.
Yeah.
Listen,
guys, everybody, you know what would you do? And maybe even Killian doesn't know it. I'm like, yeah, let's ask Dave Grohl. Third screen opens. It's actually Dave Grohl. What would you guys do? And you would all five of you would be like, holy shit.
Whoa.
What a waste.
Whoa.
What a waste. I'm joking. And I want to say this, guys. I love all of you. I'm glad you're feeling. I really do. All the haters and the lovers. And
listen, I hope that Vinayak Roy never leaves us.
I really do.
Give me so much joy.
I mean that 100%. I'm not being
for real. Never leave us.
Never leave.
As you noted, if you left, we would have 9 viewers instead of 10. So please never leave.
I gotta, it's simple math. Businesses do math. We do math.
So Blank says, I wonder how the quality is, because if it were in silk, the T-shirts would be crazy. I don't think, listen, back then, I don't think they knew how to make a T-shirt out of silk. The technology just wasn't there yet, my friend.
Actually, the thing is, those are single stitch. They were like double, triple weave. And that's why in the 90s, T-shirts were better if they used less material. It's better if there's less stitching.
So can I give a pet peeve of mine?
What?
All these brands, like modern brands, when they put out like a vintage tee, like they instead of being like, oh, it's lightweight or jersey or whatever, they're like, this is our vintage boxy tee. It's always like heavy and stiff as shit. That's what vintage T-shirt style means to these people. And it's the worst.
Yeah. I've been thinking about it, and I know this thought has been had a million times. And it's just honestly just some stupid, pathetic loser thing that I think in my head.
Okay.
I really would like to, I don't know. I would like to just experiment with making T-shirts, like producing T-shirts today that are more authentically vintage. And I know that there are brands that try to do that, but I feel like it's something that isn't really hit on the nail on the head. I think it's something that I want. I want to make T-shirts and try all the enzyme washes and I don't know. We'll take it offline, but I think that there's a market for it. Somebody should try to do it better.
I'll say one thing that I always found to be interesting. I have one Vivian Westwood T-shirt that is maybe one of the most unique and weirdly constructed T-shirts I've ever owned in a good way. Like I feel like so many of these brands, they're getting their stuff produced, their streetwear type stuff produced at the same like handful of factories, and it's legitimately refreshing to see someone who's like, oh, this has like different lengths to the front and back, and it's got these split sides, and instead of like these double stitch things, like every seam is just surged. You know, it's weird and cool, and I like it.
I think I know what you're talking about, at least based on like other Vivian Westwood tops. I would love for you to pull it out, but I'm sure it's not.
It is not close by. Yeah.
I guess in conclusion, guys, here's the brass tacks.
Mm-hmm.
If you're like upset about Saint Laurent selling a $5,000 old T-shirt, I don't think that is any. It is. I think that it is honestly very close to the ethics or unethical nature of the entire brand. All they just sell a fantasy of being rock and roll, but those people, you know, it's like that's not it.
Right.
Oh, I don't know. It's maybe we're being too somber.
No, I don't think like so. Double Slash says, I feel the same way about this that I do about every luxury company using Jean-Michel Basquiat designs, shaking my head. And I think that's why I prefer this, because instead of churning out new Basquiat or Keith Haring licensed stuff to feed the churn of the fashion machine, they're just curating some stuff that already exists. You don't have to like it, but I find it hard to hate on, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I think that the knee-jerk reaction is to say, Kurt Cobain would have hated this. It's like, yeah, I'm sure Kurt Cobain hated what was happening while he was alive.
Right.
So imagine all of the commercialism. Like, my entire life, you could walk into a Walmart and buy a Nirvana T-shirt. I'm pretty sure Kurt Cobain would be upset about that. He was not happy.
When Republicans put out policies that are just terrible for poor people and people of color, and then people are like, hey, I don't think Jesus would really like this. Has that argument ever moved a single one of them?
How about this? It seems like the vast majority of Christians. Why isn't it that like Jesus was basically a refugee who was just about like loving everybody and like cleaning the feet of the poor? Nobody adopts that. Nobody adopts just the core things he was talking about.
Why can't I just walk into a church right now and hand him my smelly, dirty feet and be like, clean me, daddy?
I mean, I genuinely feel like that is actually something that you should be able to do. I don't know. I think maybe it depends on where you go. And maybe if you go to if you're in Italy and you go to a Catholic church and there's an old priest and you're like, scusi. And then they'll be like, yes, the Christ. Because that's what Christ did.
Listen, my feet are the body of Christ. So suck on these toes, bitch.
Yeah.
Okay?
Take this, all of you, and suck on it. These are my toes. The toes of the new and everlasting covenant.
All right, so it's definitely 9:01. Things start getting bad once it gets past 9 o'clock, okay?
Yeah. Yes, guys. So I want to say I love you all.
I was about to say the same thing. Why did you say it first? I was going to also say that I love them.
I was just saying it because primarily my camera's lagging a lot. I think my computer's about to explode.
Oh, God. All right, let's finish this up. We love you so much. Christian, where do people find you?
You can find me at Brave New Wear on YouTube. You can find me at Christian_Shabetta. You can try DMing me, but it doesn't always work, and I'm sorry about that.
I'm Low Luxury. Here, Low Luxury Clothing on Instagram. Thank you so much for being here and watching The Bias Cut. We're likely off next week, but just stay tuned. We'll see you soon.
Yeah. Well, we'll make a story or something. We'll
Yeah.
try to tell you guys.
That's another
All right.
reason to go to his Instagram. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.